You're listening to the IoT Weekly Podcast, episode number 17. Hello, and welcome to episode number 17 of the IoT Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Gearforge Software. My name is Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-hosts and friends, Cliff and Zeineb. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, hello.
So, Cliff, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I just want to give everyone, again, I'm traveling, so I'm in Duluth, Minnesota. If folks don't know where that is, it's right on the edge of Lake Superior, and we're up here this weekend having a little bit of fun here. So if you hear our puppies or my puppies in the background, just note it's because I'm in a hotel room right now, not slacking off by any means, but I am working. But I'm up here. So this week, though, besides Duluth, I finished up a really fun data modeling project. And set up some alerts based on projections from that model. And finally, Matthew and I were able to get in a round of Battlefront. So pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Zeineb, how about you?
I think I haven't been on the podcast for a few weeks now, right?
I think it has been a few weeks. You were traveling the world or something, and then I think
just a few hours away by plane, nothing much. But I mean, I feel like I should put a photo on Twitter or something. But no, I've been playing more D&D. I just leveled up, so now I'm a level 6.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I learned how to. I'm starting the Arduino project with Cliff, so that's really fun. I have homework to do regarding that, so I'll have to do
you
that
got to
after.
finish getting those things crimped today, right?
I know, yes. I probably have to stay in the office a little extra just to do that.
Yeah, get those things crimped. That'd be good.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
How about you, Matthew?
Well, so I have been sort of up to my ears in business stuff, I guess. Lots of IoT project management and some code as well. A couple of projects just in full throttle right now. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and then it's kind of hard to remember what else there is. But my wife and I did go see the anarchist punk experimental music group Godspeed You Black Emperor at First Ave last weekend, and that was super fun. But I am too old for this shit.
What?
Yeah.
No such thing.
Standing, man.
Oh, how long do you have to
knees-
stand?
I mean, it must have been like 4 hours or something.
Oh my God, that'd be brutal.
Both of us were like, it's like my knees, I just have to sit.
Wow. Yeah, that would be rough, I admit. And I'm guessing there's a lot of other folks around you too.
Well, there was one other sort of wrinkle in that evening's entertainment, and that was it turned out to be St. Patrick's Day. So downtown Minneapolis was as if the city had vomited green all over its downtown streets.
Oh my God. I could say the same about St. Cloud, and that's a small place.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I know how
crazy.
much Matthew and Amanda are party animals, so they fit right into that crowd, I can imagine.
As long as the party involves no other people and happens in my house, I'm on board.
Oh,
Reasonable.
that's the best. Yes, I could see you both at Fifth Ave drinking horrible green beer.
Oh my
Yeah,
God, wait,
you know,
the green stuff is beer? I never knew that.
Yeah, it's colored.
Doesn't sound so good.
No.
Oh,
They
that's
colored
not
the
right.
river in Chicago too, so that was quite beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
Yes,
they
they
do
always
that
do.
every year. That's a huge St. Patty party is Chicago.
Yes, that's big tradition.
Yep, big tradition.
So, Cliff, can I ask you a question?
Well, it depends. Which one is it this time?
What happens when you have 300 devices connected to a single Wi-Fi router?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I thought it was.
Well, you run into potentially some unforeseen issues, actually. Most Wi-Fi routers are limited to 256 devices, as you can imagine, due to the numbering system, right, from the IP addressing.
Hmm.
And typically, some of those are already reserved, so you're not going to get a full 256 in most cases. So you'll probably get roughly 250, right? And if you're a network guy, trust me, I'm not trying to gloss over this, but it's roughly 250, let's say. When you hit that limit, you will potentially be unable to connect. And that could be an issue if you have lots of devices trying to connect up to a Wi-Fi type scenario, right? So if you're not thinking of that in IoT, that could be an issue.
Yeah, well, it's not just IoT, obviously, but I think as you just think about the world of devices has expanded
Yep.
so much, even with mobile, Um, I mean, certainly for home uses, it's not an issue, but for businesses, it could be, right? If you're not
100%.
if you're not thinking about your network, and now bring in, let's say, an IoT solution into that mix, and
Yeah.
connectivity becomes a big deal.
Well, and not even just the connectivity, but if let's say you've got a 1 gig pipeline, you split that sucker up amongst all those different scenarios, and let's say they're all streaming, your bandwidth is greatly reduced on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another factor here too. So in a lot of cases, I mean, we're now talking about mini systems which let's say you open a socket, right? Because it
Yeah.
really makes sense to use use something like a socket to communicate rather than the like HTTP or some
Hmm.
a protocol like that. So
Yep.
let's say you open a socket. Well, a lot of routers really aren't designed with inbound connections in mind,
No.
right? And so you just got to think, yeah, that whole I don't know, domain, everything about sort of connecting things inside of businesses that are more maybe traditional businesses, not thinking about the difference between IoT, mobile, and the old way, right?
The old way. It's very much and it's almost like you'd want to separate out potentially, if you could, the resources. That's what I would prefer to do. So that way you're not mixing if at all possible.
I mean, I would ideally want my IoT devices to be on a completely separate
Yep.
network with a completely separate, connection to the outside, basically connection to the internet.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, this was just a really interesting scenario. We actually seen this happen to a client. This is real world, guys. This is 100% real world, and just one of those things like, hey, one of those unforeseen scenarios. We're always thinking like you're probably going to go in and set up a different network and things like that. But when you're just going in and relying on, let's say, a client's network, you could have some issues. You probably are going to.
Absolutely. Mind the network, people. Zeineb,
Yes.
tell us about Twitter.
Oh my.
Aren't they profitable?
I think they are finally.
Yeah, gosh, that's great. Sorry, Zeineb.
Okay, I thought that was a joke, the whole unforeseen IoT issue, because I
No,
saw
that's
the show
real.
notes. Turns out it's not. I was just kind of expecting the connection issues to be a punchline. I thought it was the worst joke I've seen in a while.
Yeah, we do have some bad jokes, I admit.
Yeah, I heard that from last week.
But they are unscripted, I will have you know.
Yes, they are.
Fair enough. But on Twitter, we have 587 followers.
That is 580 more than we started with.
I'm very excited about that.
Technically,
And
we
right
started
now,
with 0.
we're in. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy.
Well, when you started, there was 7, Zeineb, so.
There you go.
Well, I was one of them. So.
Yes. So was I.
So basically, I'm happy that half of those are not bots.
Mm.
Yeah, and the whole IoT button contest is still ongoing. So once we reach 600 followers, we're gonna choose one more to receive an IoT button from Amazon. I'm still looking for the 500 winners. No one has responded yet. I guess they don't feel like free things.
That's so weird to me.
It's so weird.
The problem is this: if you get an IoT button, then you have to figure it's going to be sitting there, and you have to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, maybe next week, with our
Yeah,
show next week, we can give you a few ideas.
of what
That's
to
right.
do with an
Yeah,
IoT
exactly.
button. I feel like that would be useful.
Here's the top 10 list of useless things you can do with an IoT button.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
So if you want to hear more and get more news about IoT, you can follow us on Twitter at GearforgeIoT. And don't feel afraid to shoot us a message on our email or Twitter. Our email is podcast@gearforgesoftware.com. And obviously, if you want to get that IoT button, just follow us, I guess. And retweet or like if you feel like you really want one, because I'll obviously pick you.
Yeah, at this point, it's pretty easy to get one of these things.
Yeah,
Come on, people. You don't
got
even have to
very low
work for it.
demand.
No.
Well, you just have to be randomly picked because I can't just go around, oh, I like this name and I don't like this name. But
Well, there is some, action necessary. You do need to follow us to begin with.
yep.
Mhm.
Then you have to be randomly picked, of course, and then you need to actually respond to us when we say, "Would you like a free thing?" So those are the actions necessary.
Yes. We're not trying to spam you. Trust me, that's not the goal here.
I tell you what, I mean, we should really set up this contest that I've been talking about, right? Like write a haiku, write the haiku.
Maybe that's the thing. I don't know.
Because then it's less of a drawn out of the hat and more, my
Sure.
skill as a haiku author.
Well, I can tell you now, I don't think there's anybody that can cook because no one keeps sending you soup recipes.
No, I have
I
gotten
sent him
So I
one.
don't know if we have any
You don't
poet
count,
laureates
no
that
offense.
listen to us either, Matthew.
Ow.
No offense. I appreciate the recipe, but
Yes.
yeah, friends and family can't, participate. So, all right. Hey, is anybody sponsoring this joint?
There is finally a sponsor. So actually, there's been a sponsor for quite some time. So the IoT Fuse Conference 2018 is the show sponsor. Their goal is to unite accomplished doers, makers, and hackers with the brightest executive, entrepreneurs, and innovators. It's now in its 4th year. It's bringing together a robust community of IoT practitioners, developers, and makers, striving to build a deeper understanding of where the Internet of Things is today, where it's headed in the future, and how IoT-associated technologies can improve the physical world in which we live. You can learn more at iotfuse.com. On a side note, did you know Zeineb, did you know that Matthew and Cliff are presenting there?
Wait, who are these guys?
I know. It sounds a little shady to
Okay.
me.
I looked at some of the website. I've seen a certain Matthew. I've seen a certain Cliff. I was kind of like, hey, they have good photos.
So yes, Matthew and Cliff, that'll be Matthew and I, will be doing a workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop, and it's called Practical IoT Machine Learning, not just for data scientists. That's in quotes, everybody. The link is in the show notes if you'd like to take a look about what we're going to be presenting, but it should be pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matthew and I will be there, and we'll make sure we have some bad jokes for the class.
Yep, I'll
We
try to
will-
make it.
You should. So, and I think it's
It'll be
important to note that we have aimed this at, it's a little bit technical, but it's not super technical. So
Yep.
our goal is to try to reach people who normally would feel maybe machine learning stuff is sort of outside their ability, and show how that's not the case. I think it's more or less true, Cliff.
Yes.
We could say if you are comfortable with a spreadsheet, we can probably teach you, and not only probably can, we will in this workshop teach you how to take that level of knowledge and apply it to some machine learning stuff in the cloud.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So
I think
really,
if you're comfortable with the spreadsheet and you can export it to CSV. And worst case, I'll teach you. Worst case, I'll teach you how to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, we're really kind of imagining this as, you're at a company and you maybe already have some data, right?
Yep.
That's ending up somewhere. But what we want to show you is how to use these cloud technologies to essentially apply machine learning to it. And Cliff, I think we've got some cool stuff planned. So
Yeah, I can't wait.
Super cool. So check it out. The link is in the show notes, and we would love to meet you. Say hello, shake your hand.
Matthew will be signing autographs. Don't worry, guys.
Signing autographs. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yes.
Writing haikus.
Writing haikus. Oh gosh.
That's the next workshop. IoT haiku.
Yes, auto generation.
Oh yes, there we go. That's a great idea. That would be super fun. All right. Well, probably time for us to talk about some news articles now.
Oh yeah.
Zeineb, we have mice.
I seen
you
one.
Seriously have mice in the office?
I saw one run around. It picks up things, it cleans up, but I have a feeling that's just, I don't know what it is.
I've got one on
that's
my
our
desk
robot
right now.
I love it.
That's our robot. That's
it's my best friend.
Yeah.
But but no, there's this company called Victor, and they are integrating IoT in mouse traps.
I'm intrigued. Go on.
Yeah.
Yep. So when you look at this on the internet, one of them literally says they're integrating IoT because why not?
That's super funny.
Are they going to add blockchain to this too?
I wonder how security is going to work with that. But basically, they're trying to connect all the mousetraps to get data from them as well, and so it usually would help find out where the problem areas and how to prevent things, especially when you think about a restaurant or a business that like to which mice and things like that are just very destructive to their brand. Things like the Victor mousetrap could kind of help predict any issues and solve them before they get any worse.
Well, that's actually super interesting. Yeah, it's more about the data. Once again, Cliff, don't we keep saying that?
Yeah, it is.
It's more about the data than the device. So it's not about catching mice better. It's about communicating that you caught a mouse better. So that you can see when you have a pattern developing. Wonder if, Zeineb, what do you think about this? Do you think this is sort of a double-edged sword here? Because on the one hand, it's like, I would think as managing, especially if you've got, like, let's say you've got a chain of restaurants, being able to see the ones where you maybe have a problem, like highlighted on a map in bright red, right? I mean, that's obviously going to be helpful at that level, but isn't there some level at which like this extra amount of information is maybe not good for the business?
If I was from a public standpoint, you may want to keep this a little more secure, and transparency may not be in your best interest at this point.
Yeah. I mean, from one hand, it would probably, like, transparency would be good for the customer, but would be bad for the business, because the last thing you need, especially with the issues of security in IoT, is to have others know, hey, you have a mouse in your restaurant. Sure, you can deal with the issue, but then that will still haunt you. I think, honestly, that is one of the issues that Victor is trying to solve, but it could end up augmenting the issue instead as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what my case is here, but there's something about the fact that if you catch, like, you've got a mouse trap and you catch a mouse and you throw it out and then you've forgotten it. But there's something else that it's like every mouse that you caught is now a data point. Shows up. I mean, I do think
So Matthew, wouldn't you eat at a place that caught 300 mice in their restaurant last year?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't care. I feel like if I've lived this long, it just doesn't matter anymore.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, to answer your question seriously, I mean, I think that, yeah, and I'm almost more thinking the employees, it's like if you knew that the restaurant you worked at, it's like, oh yeah, this report we get in the back says, we caught 100 mice in the last month. Don't you think they'd talk about that? Like, I would think that would be
guaranteed.
It would be a thing.
That would get leaked pretty quickly.
Yeah. So it's funny. Scandal. I think it's a great idea, but I'm curious to see, is it?
Yeah. It says in the article too, like from a standpoint of, let's say, a data center where they've got to put traps in really hard to reach areas.
Totally.
They're saying it's probably a great scenario there, so that way you don't have technicians actually looking or your maintenance guy looking if there's nothing in there, right? Because right now you have to go in there, inspect the trap. Oh, there's nothing there. Versus kind of be able to do it that way.
I mean, I actually just think in general, I think it's a great idea. It's like it's a super smart idea. I just wonder about that sort of the unintended consequence of now being able to have too much visibility. Like some things maybe I don't want to know.
Yeah, guaranteed. That's guaranteed to happen. You should know that.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
understand.
not shocked.
I understand the problem this is solving potentially, but this is borderline one of those IoT devices where you don't even know why they're around.
Yeah.
Like, you're just doing IoT for IoT, aren't you?
Because we can.
Yeah, I definitely think.
Because why not?
Include some other bells and whistles.
Yeah, you could include some, like some additional data about the mouse, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe tag the mouse and let it go.
Awkward.
That's a great idea.
Find out where the hideout is.
Why has nobody done that yet?
Yeah, exactly.
You capture the mouse and put it in an aquarium.
Spy on the mice communities.
That's
Just have a bunch of them.
Mouse spies.
All right. Well, so Cliff, what's been going on at LL Bean?
Well, the LL Bean. So I ran across this article at the beginning of this week, actually. I thought it was really interesting because we keep hearing lots and lots of people talking about IoT projects, things like that. Well, this one caught my eye because it says LL Bean cancels Internet of Things project. And I was like, what? So the subheadline says retailers call off test of blockchain sensors that would have collected customer data from boots and coats. I was like, huh, interesting. And so they're canceling a data collection analytics project that would have tested the use of the blockchain ledger and sensors that are attached to coats and boots. They started this test about a year ago, asking very particular consumers to agree to wear garments that would send Ethereum blockchain platform for LL Bean to access, as also some of their demographic info to the company. And they were going to, and the sensors were sewn into the boots and coats. So I was like, huh. The company that created the sensors is called Lumia, so I'll have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with them, so I have to check those folks out. But the interesting part, of course, is media coverage following the story included articles that called LL Bean's concept creepy, and of course some that mistakenly reported that the company wants to know customer location data and continuously track clothing after purchase.
So, Cliff.
Yeah, and so they've shut it down, but no one's commenting about the rest of the info.
I have questions.
Of course.
So, okay. So the article, at least what your summary that you gave, didn't really include why they wanted this data. Why did they, what was their...
Yeah, so their intention was to study data points such as temperature, frequency of wear, number of washes emitted from the garments to understand whether the customers use the products as intended and whether new products live up to supplier promises, right?
Yeah. So,
yep.
Okay.
So they wanted to take those insights, funnel it into product development and marketing and supplier negotiations. That was the goal.
So this is QA. This is QA testing, basically.
It's 100% validating suppliers when they say, yep, our products can stand up to XYZ wear, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's LL Bean wanted to validate that. So how do you do that though in the real world?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I can see that. So it seems kind of like, I mean, that seems like maybe that's a good idea as long as you have a group that explicitly opts in. Like you can't just sell garments that do this. That would be insanity. But if you had like a test group, somebody might sign up for that. Maybe they even get the clothes for free, right? Mm-hmm. I would go for an LL Bean jacket that tracked me if it were free.
Yeah.
Maybe not me personally, but hypothetically, right?
Well, and I think that's a scenario. It's like, hey, would you be willing to
Yeah.
take part in this survey? Because we're really trying to make sure we understand quality and things like that. And if you could get in front of the news articles, be like, nope, your data is 100% anonymous. We actually don't know who you are. We can't even track you. I mean, I think you've got to be, because this does. I mean, it could easily get on the creepy side, I admit, right?
No, it's
Yeah.
totally creepy.
Yes, that's true.
It's
But
totally
I mean,
creepy.
here's a funny thing is, Matthew, as I was talking to an individual today, and he's got a Samsung connected washer and dryer. And what he told me is like, yep, end of life is about 5 years.
Hmm.
And what he said is they're at about 4.5 years, and all of a sudden he's just getting hit hard from product replacement stuff from Samsung at this point.
Of course, yeah.
Yep. So, and just because the data standpoint, he's like, I know they've been tracking us, but from a wear standpoint, they're like, all right, your washer and dryer is about done. You need to start thinking about replacement. And so
Hmm.
they're just plugging into them heavily right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This could have been easily avoided if they were just been more open about it. Honestly, kind of like how you guys said, hey, a group tested on a group or something, or make sure people know before they do this.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like they were trying to do that. I think the hard part, though, is if they're doing this in kind of an incognito mode, but they got caught on, that's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be like I think it's a good idea, but it would have to be an opt-in group. Like,
Yep.
it's not, you can't just sell garments that do this for sure. Not that I don't even know that that's what they were doing, but I'm saying that would not fly. That would not fly with me or anybody.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah.
It's
So
interesting.
in Lumia, I'm looking at their website right now. This is all they do. They sell sensors that are flexible that can go into commercial, industrial, automotive, and home furnishings.
How much are they?
Of
That's always the
course, I can't
question, right?
find price tag. It's just not in here, is it? I'll have to find out. Trust me, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper. I'll ask them and I'll find out.
Every
See how much it
sensor, my
costs.
first question. How much is it?
Of course, yeah. What does this cost?
Yeah.
It's a pretty
All
bare
right.
bones website, I can tell you that.
What does the Internet of Things need with a website? I mean, really.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a private sale. So that's interesting.
So, moving on. Let's talk about OWASP for a minute.
What is that?
Ooh.
So,
Is that an insect?
it sounds like an insect, and I could understand why you would think that. So, OWASP is the Open Web Application Security Project, and basically they have begun to focus on IoT security this year, which is like super important. And so basically what they do is they provide a whole bunch of stuff, but traditionally when we talk about like OWASP standards and guidelines, traditionally it's been focused on the world of web applications, and really, the way that I've used OWASP in the past has been sort of it provides almost like a list of things that you really should verify to make sure that your sites are secure, right?
Sure. Yep.
And when you need information about the details of what one of these attacks, like when, it's like, well, how do I know that I'm doing that right? You can get all that information. So it provides everything from like a high level checklist of, make sure to avoid SQL injection attacks to what is a SQL injection attack and how would you know,
Yep.
So very useful. And again, it goes back to that kind of idea that the web has been around for a long time. And in the beginning, there were no best practices.
Yeah.
And everything was like Wild West, and it was a big mess and things were insecure. And to the point where we are now, where basically the web is still a mess, but we have plenty of best practices, just sometimes they're not followed, right?
Yes.
And if they were consistently followed all the time, we would have a lot fewer big problems. They wouldn't go away entirely, and there would always be some new thing that would crop up. But generally speaking, most of the breaches that happen because of negligence regarding these sorts of standards. So now this is applying the same concept to the world of Internet of Things. And we talk about security and how important this is for IoT on like every single episode.
I think every single episode we've got something about security.
Yeah. So this is fantastic, and I mean, basically, I'll list some of the items here. So, the OWASP Internet of Things project includes information on IoT attack surface areas, vulnerabilities, firmware analysis, software weaknesses, IoT testing guides, IoT security guidance, principles of IoT security, IoT framework assessments. And let me just show you here, and the IoT attack surface areas. So for example, ecosystem access control includes things like lost access procedures or implicit trust between components, device memory. What about usernames and passwords in clear text? You know, we went through the same thing in mobile too, Cliff.
Yeah, I remember.
If you remember, like early days,
100%.
again, Wild West, and there was clear text all over the place. So, you know, everything through device physical interfaces, web interfaces, you know, this is pretty much the traditional list that you would get with any web.
Yep.
Device firmware, network services, administrative interface, local data storage. Like basically, it provides all this information. And for me, as a software engineer, when I'm looking at a project, the last thing I want to have to do is come up with this stuff from scratch. You know what I mean?
Entirely. That's the last thing I want to do.
It's like sit down and think about, well, wait a minute, in what ways could my product be insecure? I mean, I think that's an important exercise too, but it's far easier to start from.
It's kind of like making spaghetti. I mean, the last thing I want to do is make my own noodles.
Totally. Or, you know, think about, I've got all the ingredients in front of me, but no instructions.
Oh, that'd be awful.
How's my spaghetti going to turn out? It's like, how long do I boil this spaghetti for? I don't know.
You put in the sauce first, then the noodles, right?
I've made spaghetti a few times, so I would say that's not right.
Oh, okay.
But if you haven't.
I think that'd be an easy mistake. Like I boil the noodles in the sauce, right?
Right. That's the idea, is that these things have already been thought about, and you know, you should. I think it's true. Any software engineer, or architect, or hardware engineer or architect should be thinking about. They should think critically about the security of their applications. However, a good place to start is from the list. Let's just go down the list of vulnerabilities, shall we?
I mean, interesting enough, Matthew. I mean, the OWASP is jumping in. Do you see other large organizations or kind of these firms that provide guidelines jumping in the future around some of these things?
I don't know. I feel like OWASP is kind of the standard.
Sure.
And so, for example, OWASP is licensed. All this information on there is licensed as Creative Commons.
Sure.
And so I'm sure there are plenty of other places where people have, you know, provided security guidance. I'm sure people provide security guidance privately to companies as consultants, and we certainly do. So, so I speak personally on that. However, generally, it's sort of like a community standard. I feel like OWASP is the big player. Certainly has been for the web. So,
sure.
And because it is Creative Commons, it means anybody can contribute, but it also means you can reuse it. So, you know, you don't have to, like, the whole goal here is don't reinvent the wheel. Let's all contribute to the same source and make it better. So this is good.
Excellent.
It's very good. All right. So we did have a few other articles this week that we're not going to talk about, but they will be in our show notes. We have an article about IBM's Watson taking on IoT. We have another article about the Linux Foundation backing the new Acorn hypervisor. And last but not least, European Care Homes track patient rolling in beds. I haven't even read that one, so I don't know what it is, but it'll be on our website if you're curious.
It was a strange one.
A lot of these are. It's okay.
As a reminder, if you have any feedback, you can shoot us a message at podcast@gearforgesoftware.com or on the Twitters. We are Gearforge IoT. And please, we would love to hear from you. All right, well, that just about wraps things up for this week's episode. Do you guys have anything fun planned for the weekend? Cliff?
Well, I've got a little bit of Django I need to work on this weekend, and then we're going to be in Duluth till about Saturday here, so we're probably going to go over to drive up the North Shore, and somebody told me about a new park that I need to go take the puppies to. Probably not today. It's a little bit windy out, so we'll probably go down to Canal Street and grab some dinner tonight. That's probably my weekend.
That sounds like fun. What about you, Zeineb?
I am going to Minneapolis this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to get to the cat cafe that opened recently.
So you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, you got to fill it.
A cat cafe is a place where you pay a lot of money for drinks and you pet cats and maybe you adopt them. It's great.
So it's an adoption?
Some of them are. This one is. Some of them are not. So the ones in Japan where it originated are not for adoption, most of them.
Really?
Yep.
So you can go in there and the cat will just walk up to you and sit on your lap? Is that how this works?
Yeah. It's a cultural thing for people who can't have pets around them in homes or apartments or something like that.
Do you pay extra to clean the litter box?
I'm sure that if they could get money out of people doing that, they probably would.
I assume you pay extra not to clean the litter box.
Yes, exactly.
I assume you will pay extra to get the fur off of your coat, though.
Yes, that's true.
Guessing.
That is so true.
I'll take warm milk, please. How about you, Matthew? What do you've got this weekend?
Oh man, so I'm still digging out from under some projects. So I think it's gonna be a busy weekend for me. Nothing really fun planned, but
Okay.
I tell you what, next weekend I'm gonna do something fun.
Are you gonna have margaritas?
Maybe a Bondi margarita. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for listening. We hope you join us again for next week's show. And until then, so long and be well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.